It's a question we've received at least from a dozen of you, including one just as recently as last night. Lucinda asked, hey, what happens when the money left over from the candidate's campaign after the election? A few weeks ago, Kenneth asked kind of the same thing. Could you explain what happens with a candidate's donation money if they have any left over after the election ends? Well, great questions, both of you, and tonight we're going to answer that. Now, it's no secret that these midterm elections were expensive. Actually, it's looking like it was the most expensive midterm ever. A lot of your questions came in response to our stories on campaign finances in the race for Oregon governor, where Tina Kotek is the projected winner. By the way, Christine Drazan has not conceded yet. Let's see what's left over in each candidate's bank account 2 days removed from the election. Christine Drazan has just over $157,000. That's a drop in the bucket, though, compared to what was spent over the course of the campaign, about $22 million by her campaign. Tina Kotek has nearly $900,000 left over. Her campaign spent more than $28 million to get her elected, if the projection holds. And Betsy Johnson still has over $400,000. Her campaign spent nearly $17 million in her bid as an unaffiliated candidate that fell short. So, back to the question of what can be done with that money. Well, the Oregon Secretary of State's office tells us the short answer is it can be used for pretty much any lawful purpose other than personal use. And what does personal use include? Well, that's things like paying for your groceries or a mortgage or tickets to the concert, loan payments, stuff like that. All right, let's take a look at examples of what it can be used for. It can be used to defray any expenses incurred in connection with the candidate's duties as a public office holder. It can also be contributed to another committee. It can also be given to charity. And the final bullet point in the campaign finance manual is it can be used for any other lawful purpose, which I got to tell you seems incredibly vague, don't you think? So for some clarity on exactly what that means, we asked Republican strategist who deals with the issues all the time like this. You'll probably recognize Rebecca Tweed from our coverage on election night. If I'm a candidate and I decide that I need to start getting massages or hairstyling done to help with my legislative performance, is that something I can use campaign funds for?
I will just say a lot of them need to be doing that. We could use some makeovers in the legislature. You know, technically they could, but it's very rare that it ever happens. I mean, I think most folks want to be really respectful of how that money was contributed. Oftentimes people will use their PAC dollars to attend conferences so that they're not using state funds or tax dollars. I mean, so there's always a little bit of discretion there.
Now, I'm not sure exactly who she was talking about needing a makeover there, but okay. And I want to clarify, by the way, we're talking about candidates for state office here. The federal rules are similar, but they're a little different, so state office. She said most candidates will either hold on to their money for their next campaign or maybe donate it to another candidate's campaign in the future. They cannot put it in their pockets unless, that is, they personally loaned the campaign money, then they can pay themselves back. And, by the way, they can also buy furniture for their office, and they can also hire a family member for staff with campaign money.
But yeah, they can buy furniture. I mean, again, you know, there's some pretty strict examinations from the Secretary of State on it, you know, to approve those expenses. Treasurers kind of know the rules, but there is a little bit of leeway, but certainly can't pay for trips to Hawaii, unfortunately.
Can they hire family members to be their legislative staff members?
They can. There are some laws against that. You know, over the last 15 years, there have been a few things that have tightened up sort of that nepotism, which I think is a really negative term. It has a lot of negative connotations. But for a lot of legislators, you know, they're spending 6 months away from home. They're not going back every day unless you live in the Portland metro area. So their spouses, you know, decide to move to Salem with them or move somewhere nearby and can work in the legislature. Certainly they can use campaign funds for that.
All right, well, and some candidates will have money left over, as we've seen with the governor's race. But Rebecca Tweed says if your candidate lost, you should have spent every last dollar you had trying to find that win.
Sort of a rule from being a strategist side is you don't want to have any money left over, like unless you're for sure that you're going to win. But as we go through, you know, some of the campaign finance on some of these competitive races, if any of the folks lost that thought they would win and they have any money left, somebody made a mistake strategically. You should get that, spend everything that it takes to win.